Happy Sabbath, church. Good to see you. There we go. There's the church. I should be able to share my screen now. Just found a couple photos and things to share from what's been happening with us in these last 2 years. Just to update on a bit of the mission of what's been happening out at Emerald and Longreach. Where we go? Photos. There we go. I'll come to that in a moment. It's just good to be back and to see all your faces again. And it's such a blessing to be here. Montgomery does not remember this church. He was like, "Oh, it's a new church." And I'm like, "No, not really." But yes. So for those of you who don't know, you'll see there's some new faces here. We were here for 3 years. And we left 2 years ago to go up to Emerald and Longreach to pastor up there. And I worked with previous pastors, Pastor Neil and Pastor Raiko, while I was here before. And so I see many of you are still here, and there's some new faces as well. And it's just, So we went up to Emerald beginning of 2023 and Longreach. Now at Longreach they had a group that they wanted to plant. They wanted a church to be planted there. Some of the literature evangelist team. So for those who don't know, Longreach is the capital of outback Queensland. Really, it's 7 hours inland from Rockhampton, and at Emerald, we're at Emerald. It's another 4 hours inland from Emerald, where we are. So Emerald's 3 hours from Rockhampton, then you have another 4 hours, if not 8 hours, between Rockhampton and Longreach directly west. So it's a fair distance that we're covering. Pretty much we're ministering to an area the size of the entire state of Tasmania, and that's covering quite a number of drives that we have to do. But we love it out there. It's really lovely doing the outback ministry. You get to do a ministry that, it's very different to here, where your visitations, to go on a visitation, you have to drive quite some time to go see the people. But yeah. Now, if you want to get an idea of what the church is like, for those at Emerald, for those of you who've been to Bow Desert Church, it's very similar size, very similar demographic, and so that's just very like when I went to there, having been at Bow Desert, I was like, oh, it felt quite at home there, so that was good. But Longreach, the exciting thing with Longreach is as an outback town, about 3,000 people there. And literature evangelists from working with Adventist Aviation had been flying out quite a lot, going out there, doing literature evangelism, making a lot of contacts. Then COVID came, which put a hold on things for a while, but then they got back in, and then they told the conference, look, we've got a lot of contacts here. There's a couple of Adventists already in town. We'd like to start a church. And so when I got the call out there, they said, look, we want you to help start this church out at Longreach. So we went from the Salvation Army Hall out there in Longreach, and we have about 7 odd people coming. About 4 to 5 Adventists that will attend. These are Islanders who work in the aged care facility in town. And then there is also one of the local policemen and his fiancée. And then, so they're the Adventists. And then we have some of the contacts that were carried over from the time with the literature evangelists. And so that's been good working with them. We only get out there once a month, but we go in on the Friday, we stay the whole weekend, and then we come back and we visit people and things like that. So that's been a blessing out there, just to get that little group going and see that it's still going strong. Last Sabbath we were there at Longreach, and one of our contacts there, a lady by the name of Betty. If you have a list of people that you pray for, put Betty's name down. Betty, she said. She basically, from the way she was talking, she was already identifying as a Seventh-day Adventist. She had, didn't really go to any of the churches in town, but she was a Christian, she was a believer, but she started attending with us, and she's now, convinced about the Sabbath and those things. And she was saying, she's been reading Ellen White on her own and been very blessed, so she's very much come on board, and I'm really hoping that we'll be able to ask her to formally join the church soon as well. So that's been super exciting, a big win. In Emerald, we have a larger town of about 16,000 people, a nice country town there. It's a regional hub for the area. And some of the great mission opportunities that we've had there, the local agricultural show is run by one of our church members. And so he gives us a really good prime stall in the agricultural show. And from there we do the Elia Wellness. Some of you guys might know about that. So we've been doing some of that out of there, which has been good for the community. The other thing he did was this year we did a prophecy seminar called Revelation for Today. And so this was really exciting. 10 nights of different prophecy topics that we presented just at the town in Emerald there. And he said, look, we got all these people coming for this agro show, and they all get a show bag when they come in, and I want all of them to have a brochure for the program in the show bag. So that was great. And we did Facebook advertising, we did the show bags, we did letterboxing, and we also had a literature evangelist, Georgia Kenny, come the 2 weeks prior, and she went around and invited people to the program. And we had 6 people come from the community for the 10 nights. And the funny thing was, each of them came from one of the different ways that we were advertising. So we had one couple came from the show bags. At the agricultural show, we had one guy who got the letterbox in his the tract in his letterbox, the invitation in his letterbox. He came to that. We had someone else who came because they saw the Facebook ad. We had someone else who came because the literature evangelist invited her, and then we had another person who came because a church member invited them. So all the different ways that you can get out there to invite people to come to evangelistic programs or any kind of thing that the church could be doing, they all work. Unfortunately, we don't know which one works best because they all got the same amount of response. But it was a great program, and from that we've had 2 people attending the church. One lady, she's about to move to Papua New Guinea, so we're about to lose her. But the other guy, he's now integrated well into the church and is believing the message as well. And so that's if another person to pray for, please pray for Rocco. So Betty and Rocco are our 2 contacts that we're working with there. Other things that we've done with Emerald is, that's just a bit more photos of our team doing the program there. Is at the beginning of this year, we had a meeting, like planning what do we want to do with evangelism, what kind of evangelistic outreaches. And of course, everyone had all these great ideas, and we brainstormed them all together. And there was like 15 different ideas. And of course, if we did all of them, we'd expire. We wouldn't be able to last. And so we said, look, let's just narrow it down to the top 5 that we want to do. And so the top 5 we narrowed down to was VBS for the toddlers, a toddler VBS during the school holidays. And that's called Happy Hands Art Time, and we've done that twice now, and the people from the community really, really appreciate that. Basically everyone who attends is not Adventist, and so that's been great. The other things we voted to do was, of course, the evangelistic program. The other thing we wanted to do was to be more involved with the helping out in the community, like just meeting people's needs, physical needs and financial needs and things like that. Now, in Emerald, there is already a neighborhood center which does a lot of food pantry work and food parcel work and emergency relief and that kind of stuff. And so we said, look, these guys have already got this established network. Let's just plug in with them. And they were like, please, we need more help. They're all, those kind of people, they're always looking for more volunteers. So we've been working with the Emerald Neighborhood Center quite a bit and helping people who are hungry with food parcels and things like that, as well as we went and did a big working bee for them, just cleaned up their facility a bit because it was getting it into a bit of a mess. And so that's been some of the mission work that we've been doing this year. And of course we had the Elia Wellness, which I've already talked about. And so it's been a good year. We've had last year was primarily focused on just getting to know the church. We did a lot of social events and camps and things like that, just to really get in connected well with everybody. And then was a lot of in-reach last year, and this year has been focused on outreach, and that's been a blessing. The other thing, of course, that I'm involved with is what's called Youth Rush. And some of you might know about this. We have some of our young ladies here from Logan Reserve at Youth Rush at the moment, up at Pine Rivers, the South Queensland Youth Rush. This is some pictures that I took last year. I was down in Bendigo helping the Victorian Conference start up their Youth Rush. Now, Youth Rush is a program for young people to get out and learn how to do literature evangelism for just a short 2-week or 4-week programs. And so that's just some photos there of the Youth Rush that we had. That's just some of the students that we had at the Bendigo program. And in regards to Youth Rush, we now have it started to grow all across Australia, with pretty much every conference coming on board with a Youth Rush program now. This coming year, our last 3 conferences are going to run their first Youth Rushes. That is South New South Wales, Tasmania Conference, and Greater Sydney Conference. All the other conferences already have Youth Rush programs running for their young people, and this coming year we've got that going forward. So I have for the last 2 to 3 years I have been in this role as Australia and New Zealand Youth Rush coordinator, which is for 5 weeks a year. I work for the South Pacific Division, but next year that role is expanding, and that's actually involving, and this is some news, that's actually involving us moving down out of the South Queensland Conference go down to Newcastle and Sydney. And I'll be working in that role a bit more. It's still part-time, but the role is expanding up into that Youth Rush and just helping the movement really grow and continue. So with that, we're going to be going down to a meeting shared between the South Pacific Division, which is Youth Rush, and also North New South Wales Conference. Or I've just accepted a call to the Warners Bay Church near Newcastle, and also they've asked me to be the Literature Ministries leader for the North New South Wales Conference as well. So it's a 3-part role that I'm stepping into next year, and it's going to be involving us moving down sometime in early February probably, or late January. We'll be moving down to do that. So that's going to be sad to be leaving this conference, but it's very exciting to be going into this new work which God has been really put on my heart for quite some time, to help young people really learn and grow in their relationship with God and learn how to share their faith. And the growth that you see with these young people on these programs is just incredible. To really step outside of that comfort zone and go and do this. And people ask me, why would young people want to do this? And I say, well, we don't do Youth Rush because it's easy. We do Youth Rush because it's hard. It's one of the hardest ways of getting out there and sharing your faith, and that's why it's so good to do, because you stop relying on yourself. There can be no human power involved in it. It has to be fully on God. And for a young person who's might have grown up in church, might have grown up in school, might have done a little bit of mission work here and there, but to be out there, put on doors and having to go and talk to people in the community face to face, man, it really helps them realize, man, my relationship with God really needs to be real, and it's very incredible to see that. So yeah, that's going to be very exciting to be able to step into that role. It really came as an 11th hour call. Literally, we got the call 2 days ago. So as I'm sharing this with you right now, we wrote a letter for the head elder who's going to be reading it to Emerald Church and letting them know. But we will be back when we finish our holiday. Right now, we're heading off to the USA on Monday. We're going to the USA. I've been invited to speak at GYC, which is a youth congress over there. And then when we come back, we'll get sorted and move down south. But God has been doing great things in all the spaces in which we've been able to minister and serve for Him. And it's just been a privilege, and I'm just so glad that I get to share with you this morning what's been happening since I left you guys, how God's been using us, and where God's going to be taking us in the future. So thank you it's good to see you all again. God bless.
Thank you, Harley. It's good to see this. You're still running 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I would just like to call our deacons to come forward now and collect our Sabbath school offering, please.